The Last of Us Part 1 is one of the most beloved games of all time. I mean, it's hard to deny it. When the game first came out, it had the original edition. It had the remastered edition. Then it got the remake. Then it got the TV show adaptation that is getting a second season. Then it got a second game. There's just so many things. The storytelling in The Last of Us is absolutely amazing. It gives you a story about fatherhood, getting over grief, building new relationships. It's absolutely amazing. In 2013, Naughty Dog Studios, the creators and the people that made the Uncharted series, made The Last of Us. Originally releasing on the PS3, this game was critically acclaimed. In 2013, it won Game of the Year and was nominated for multiple awards after that. Like I said at the beginning of the video, one of the most loved things about The Last of Us is its story, because it teaches you multiple things while you go through it, while you go through the emotions. And that's why we're here today. We're here to talk about the development process of The Last of Us. We're here to talk about what the fans thought. We're here to talk about why it was so loved. And we're here to also talk about the story. So this is a critique and retrospect of The Last of Us Part 1. Let's begin.
If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself.
No matter where you were in 2013, you couldn't escape the hype for The Last of Us. The Last of Us was one of the most anticipated and hyped up games of 2013, which is honestly shocking, seeing how the games that came out that year, games like GTA, Batman Arkham Origins, Tomb Raider, so many more, it's honestly surprising how popular The Last of Us was, seeing how big the games that were in 2013. But game director Bruce Straley and Neil Druckmann had a story to tell, and this story will be very loved in the Last of Us community. While we're on the topic about the hype of The Last of Us, there's another thing that I want to talk about, and it's definitely one of the key features as to why this game was so popular: the visuals. This game is absolutely positively beautiful and is one of the most beautiful games of all time. The scenery with the music that they add with the visuals is absolutely amazing. In 2013, the visuals were highly praised, but in 2023 with the remake, this game has just become more and more popular and the visuals have become more and more noticed, and it's honestly amazing when you take a look at it. This game is visually stunning and you cannot deny it. While we're also on the topic about the hype, there's another thing that I want to talk about: the casting. Neil Druckmann, the casting director, would go on to pick Ashley Johnson to play Ellie and Troy Baker to play Joel. And even though we will get more into it as the video goes on and we explore more chapters, the bond between Ellie and Joel is definitely one of the high reasons on why this game is so beloved and is so praised. The chemistry between Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker is positively the best part of the entire game, and there's nothing that you can do but congratulate Neil on having this casting. And there's a lot more that I want to talk about, but we're going to be getting into that later on in the video and in the later chapters. Like, we're going to discuss gameplay, we're going to discuss the music, we're going to discuss more of the characters, but that will come in the later chapters. For now, let's move on to chapter 2, where we finally discuss the story of The Last of Us Part 1. We open up with Sarah sleeping on the couch, and in this section we learn everything that we need to know about Joel and his character and his daughter in this point of the story. We get Sarah giving Joel a watch, which becomes so much more important later on in the story and is the most important piece of the entire story of The Last of Us. We get a cute moment between Joel and his daughter, and then eventually Sarah falls asleep. While playing as Sarah, you also would realize that this is the beginning of the outbreak. And honestly, I don't think it would be crazy to say if you say that this is the greatest opening of all time. In this section, you learn so much. In the beginning, Joel has to sadly shoot his neighbor. You can see him hesitate until the last moment to finally shoot him. Something that is completely shocking if you truly do know Joel. We know Joel as this strong, brute man who would kill anybody that steps into his way. But in this opening and section, we find out that he wasn't always like this, and Sarah's death is truly the reason why he's so shut down and closed off. In this section, you honestly get to see amazing world building. We get to see the world slowly lose its power. We get to see the world slowly go insane as they have to deal with this zombie outbreak. We get to see how buildings burn down, houses burn down, how the world is truly just going insane and having to deal with this infection. After being forced to sadly have to kill his neighbor, Joel and Sarah go off with Tommy so that they can go and leave this place. And like I said earlier, you get to see this world slowly burn and become the world that you are mainly used to in The Last of Us. You get to see buildings burn, houses burn, the world slowly start to just shut down slowly. After their car gets ran into, Joel and Sarah eventually split away from Tommy. And after this, we get the sad moment where Sarah's death happens. And with Sarah's death, this brings me to something that I want to talk about, the TV show. In this video, I want to talk about the similarities and differences, what the TV show did different from the game and what the game did different from the TV show. And while we're on the topic about Sarah, we might as well talk about her TV character counterpart. So let's begin with the differences between game version of Sarah and the TV show version of Sarah.
Where'd you get the money for this?
Drugs. I sell hardcore drugs.
It's better when I do.
I'm really excited to talk about this. I've never made a video talking about The Last of Us TV show. So to finally share my opinion on the show and talk about the similarities and differences and how the TV show went from a different route to the game, I'm really excited to talk about this. One of my favorite things that the TV show did with Sarah and this entire beginning chapter section is the build-up. In the TV show, we see Sarah at school. We see Sarah talking to the next door neighbor. In the TV show, we see Sarah in the next door neighbor's house, and you get to see the relationship that these two have. After we see her go to school, after we see her at the neighbor's house, then that's when we get the scene of where Joel walks in and she talks to Joel and gives Joel the watch. Then that's when that happens. But in the game, we instantly start on her sleeping and then waking up when Joel gets home. And I'm really glad that the TV show did this. It gives you so much more time to love Sarah so that when she's taken away from you in the TV show, it just hurts so much more. In the video game, Sarah's death is already as sad as is. But in the TV show, you get to spend all this time with her and see how loving and kind and caring that she is. You get to see why Joel loves his daughter so much. So you feel the exact same emotions that Joel does when she's sadly ripped away from you. In the game, I'm so happy that they didn't do this approach with this much buildup. I'm so glad. Can you imagine that you open this game, you hear that it's so good, and then you play the game and the beginning section is you're playing as this little girl at school. Then you have to play the same thing where she's building cookies with her neighbor, and then that's when you see Joel, and then that's when the outbreak happens. No, I do not think that this would work in a video game. And that's why I kind of think that The Last of Us needed to be an adaptation of a TV show. This game is about 13 hours long. You cannot fit 13 hours into a 1 hour film. All I'm saying is I think that both sections in the TV show and in the game, they did Sarah absolutely amazing. In the game, even though you don't get to see her go to school, talk to her neighbor, build a relationship with her neighbor, you still feel the emotions. You still see how kind and caring and loving that she is, even though she has no other conversations besides with Joel. So let's just get back to the story. After Sarah's death, we then cut to 20 years later. And this is where we're introduced to Tess, the love interest of Joel, you can say. We definitely know through context clues that they definitely dated or were something in the past, but during the sections, besides a few flirty comments, we don't really get anything else with Tess. Joel and Tess are eventually tasked with escorting Ellie to this Firefly safe house by Marlene, the leader of the Fireflies, which is this group that is basically an outcast and stands against the government. Marlene tells Joel and Tess that if they do this, if they escort her to a simple Firefly location drop point, that they would get their money doubled. Marlene would like to do it herself, but she's kind of on the brink of death. While trying to get Ellie to this drop point, we actually find that Ellie is bitten. But she said that the bite is 2 weeks old, and usually you're supposed to turn between 2 and 3 days. While finding out that Ellie is actually bitten, we also find out that Ellie is actually immune. While we're here, we might as well talk about the TV show while we're at this and talk about these characters. We have to talk about how TV show Joel is different from the game Joel. We have to talk about how TV show Tess is different from the game Tess. We have to talk about how TV show Ellie is different from game Ellie. We might as well just talk about it now. Let's start with TV show Ellie, the most controversial, of all.
If she so much as twitches, don't.
Before we begin talking about the controversial casting of Ellie, I want to talk about the why. Why was The Last of Us put into live action? Why was this show made? Well, Neil Druckmann gave a response to this question, and I quote, "At the end of the day, there are people out there that will never pick up a controller, and they will never experience the story. And I think our story is special enough to bring it to them." Just an amazing quote. At the beginning of this video, you heard me talk about how this game was critically acclaimed and how it won Game of the Year, and how after winning Game of the Year, it was nominated for multiple awards after this. But for some people, before the show, they didn't even know The Last of Us existed. This show brought so many new eyes to The Last of Us franchise. And even then, some people only know that the show exists. Some people don't even know that The Last of Us started off as a video game. They don't know about how many awards this game got, how many awards part 1 got, how many awards part 2 got. They don't even know the voice actors, anything. The show is all they know about The Last of Us. Just like with Sarah, there is no big difference between the game version of Ellie and the TV show version of Ellie. But there is one thing that I have to talk about, and is the elephant in the room: the casting. Now, while I myself do not have a problem with this casting in the slightest, after watching the show and replaying The Last of Us Part 1, Bella Ramsey plays Ellie to a T, and she absolutely does her justice and is definitely an amazing actor and played Ellie absolutely positively well. But a lot of fans do not like this casting whatsoever. A lot of fans spread hate to Bella Ramsey because of her appearance, and some people say that she can't act and she doesn't play Ellie good. And honestly, that's a consistent thing throughout the entire casting of the show. Even though we haven't talked about his character in the game and in the show yet, Joel's casting was also criticized. So it is now time to talk about TV show version of Joel.
That's a weird fucking tone, man.
That's just the way he sounds. He has an asshole voice. Joe, tell him he's okay.
Everything is great.
Dude.
Like you heard me say earlier, Joel's casting was criticized. But while it was criticized, it wasn't as criticized as Bella Ramsey. Unlike Ellie and her game counterpart, there is really a lot of differences between Joel and his video game counterpart. Whether it be in some scenes, whether it be his personality, there are a lot of changes to this character. In the TV show, it is very apparent Joel cannot hear out of one ear and also has a bunch of health problems. But in the game, he can hear perfectly fine and doesn't seem to have any health problems whatsoever. Just like with Bella Ramsey, I do not have a problem with this casting whatsoever. And I think Pedro Pascal plays Joel absolutely perfect. And honestly, I think that with every single casting in this show, I think everyone plays their part good and amazing, and some even do it way better than the game's counterpart. Now that we have praised Joel and Ellie, it is now time to talk about Tess.
Bitch, I will bash your skull unless you turn around and get your dumb ass out of here.
Fuck this.
Tess in the show, just like Joel, just like Ellie, just like Sarah, is absolutely amazing. The actor that plays Tess is amazing. She does exactly what she needs to do with the script and screen time that she has. She plays Tess absolutely amazing. And I know I sound like a broken record because I keep saying this was amazing. I love this scene. I love this. These characters are amazing. And it seems like I'm giving no hate, but I really cannot hate on this show. This show is absolutely amazing, and it brought new eyes to the Last of Us franchise. There's nothing you can do but congratulate it. Now that we have given props to all three actors and all three characters, it is now time to return right back to the story. So let's get back into it. After finally arriving at the Firefly drop point, we get there and everybody is dead. With no sign of Marlene, no sign of any Fireflies but the dead ones, it seems like this is the end of the road. In this section, we also find out that Tess was bitten. Tess tells Joel to get Ellie to Tommy's because he is a former Firefly and will know exactly where to take Ellie. After this, Joel reluctantly leaves Tess because a bunch of soldiers showed up and Tess has to fight them now. After Tess is sadly killed off, the game has now officially begun. Without Tess along, it is now just Joel and Ellie. Tess just died and now we are on the way to Tommy's, but Tommy lives far away and we need a car. So we now have to go to to this guy named Bill. In this next section, we meet Bill, who is a loner and stays alone. He stays in this little town and he has set traps all around this place. After a bit of a hiccup, Bill finally agrees to take us to this car battery. In this section, we don't find out that much about Bill besides him being a loner, but we do find out that he used to have a partner in crime named Frank. In this section, Frank basically says how he hated Bill and he killed himself. But now this moves us on to the TV show. You know how in Sarah's chapter I was talking about the build up to the outbreak. In this, we get a huge flashback with Bill, and we get to see Frank and Bill as they live life in the apocalypse. In the game, we get to see Bill as this loner dude who doesn't really want to socialize with society. But in the game, he's the exact same way, but with Frank, we get to see a lot more stuff. We get to see how kind and caring he can truly be once he gets attached to someone. And that is something that I just truly love, and why I give so much more praise to this TV show. It gives us so much more context than the game ever gave us. Like in the TV show, we get to see the news talk about the infection when it first started. We get to see moments with Bill and Frank. We get to see so many flashbacks with Ellie. We get to see the true build up to Ellie and Riley's relationship. We finally get to see Ellie's mom, who we never ever saw or was mentioned in The Last of Us Part 1. And then when we get to the David episodes, we get to see so much build up with him and his group. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I just absolutely positively love how much care and detail went into the TV show to give us just this extra build up and to make us love these characters so much more when we go back and play The Last of Us Part 1. After being done with the Bill section, we finally leave Bill and we now have a car. So now we're on the way to Tommy's. After another few hiccups, we then meet Henry and Sam, two brothers trying to survive the apocalypse and also trying to get to the Fireflies. Realizing that these two basically have to go the exact same way, they partner up together. Can I just say, I absolutely love Henry and Sam. After Tess's death, it really has just been Joel and Ellie. But to see two other people and to have them have such great chemistry with Joel and Ellie, with Joel and Henry being cool and Sam and Ellie being cool, it's absolutely amazing. We get so much building with these two. We get Henry saying that he's scared of death. We get Sam saying that he doesn't want to be infected and he wonder what happens to you after you get infected. There's just so much with these two that I love. But sadly, after having one of our adventures, Sam sadly gets bit. And after this, Henry loses it and sadly shoots himself.
Oh my God.
After this, we get a big time skip. Joel and Ellie are finally closing in closer to Tommy. But back to the show, man. There's another thing that I love. In this, after Henry shoots himself, we then get the funeral scene. We get Ellie saying her final goodbyes, and it shows Ellie's grief, something that was really missing in the video game. Besides the house scene, Henry and Sam are never mentioned after their death. But in the show, you get to see Ellie grieve, and you get to see a little bit of Joel grieving. It's just absolutely an amazing scene from the TV show. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen the clip. After this, we finally see Tommy in Jackson. We get to see what Tommy has been up to since we last saw him in Sarah's section. We get to see that he has built this entire town with power. He has a loving wife. He has so many people in this community that cares about him. After a few friendly interactions, we finally get down to business, and Joel tells Tommy that Ellie is the cure for mankind and how she's immune and how he needs Tommy to take her to the Fireflies so that they can run tests and make the cure and stop this entire outbreak. But Tommy also gets down to business and he tells Joel, no, I'm not going to do this for you. And then after this, Jackson sadly gets attacked. After defeating all the enemies that invaded Jackson, we then get this scene with Joel and Ellie, and it truly shows how much Joel has let his guard down and how much he is starting to care for Ellie.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Joel! Oh man, they were coming in from every direction. Then Maria was like, we gotta run. And so we dove over these tables and this huge guy blasted with a shotgun.
Slow down. Listen, hey, are you hurt?
No.
God damn it. I need to talk to you.
Even though Joel doesn't realize it, he really does care for Ellie a lot in this scene. Even though in this scene, he is supposed to just drop Ellie off and then leave her. That's it. End of story. Drop her off at the Fireflies and then he's gone. He truly does care for her at this point in the story, and you can definitely see it. Even though Joel doesn't see it, the player and Tommy can see it. Ellie eventually finds out about what Joel's plan is, to just drop her off and leave her with Tommy. She goes to a house, and then we get one of the best scenes in The Last of Us.
Is this really all they had to worry about? Boys, movies, deciding which shirt goes with which skirt. It's bizarre.
Get up. We're leaving. Come on.
And if I say no?
Do you even realize what your life means? Huh? Running off like that, putting yourself at risk? It's pretty goddamn stupid.
Well, I guess we're both disappointed with each other then.
What do you want from me?
Admit that you wanted to get rid of me the whole time.
Tommy knows this area
Oh,
better
fuck
than...
that.
Well, I'm sorry. I trust him better than I trust myself.
Stop with the bullshit. What are you so afraid of? That I'm gonna end up like Sam? I can't get infected. I can take care of myself.
How many close calls have we had?
Well, we seem to be doing all right so far.
And now you'll be doing even better with Tommy.
Not her, you know.
What?
Maria told me about Sarah.
Ellie?
And
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel. But I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell ain't your dad. And we are going our separate ways.
Get it together. We're not alone.
I got two walking in.
There's more inside already.
You remember how earlier I was saying how when the show copies a scene from the game, there's just something off about it? Well, this scene is a prime example. This scene absolutely is amazing. It shows emotion. It shows how Joel still hasn't gotten over Sarah's death 20 years later. And just bringing up Sarah hits a nerve for Joel. In the show, it plays basically the exact same way, but just like I said, there's just something off about this scene. Check it out.
Is this really all they had to worry about? Boys, movies, deciding which shirt goes with which skirt. It's bizarre.
Listen,
Why are you here?
I came here to talk to you.
No, why are you still here? If you're gonna ditch me, ditch me.
What exactly did you hear?
I have to leave her, you have to take her. You know, I stood up for you today because I thought...
I made this decision for your own good. You'll be way better off with Tommy. He knows the area better than I do.
Do you give a shit about me or not?
Of course I do.
Then what are you so afraid of? I'm not her, you know. Maria told me about Sarah and...
No. Don't say another word.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel. But I've lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everybody I have cared for has either died or left me. Everybody fucking except for you! So don't tell me that I'd be safe with somebody else, because the truth is, I would just be more scared.
You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell ain't your dad. Now come dawn, we're going our separate ways.
After the house gets invaded by enemies, after dealing with them, Joel may have realized what he'd done, and he stops Tommy. He gets the location of where the lab is, where they can test Ellie, and then he tells Ellie to get on his horse. And now, Ellie and Joel are back together again, now going to the lab to make a cure for mankind. We have done it. We have finally made it to the end of The Last of Us Part 1. After this, we have the David section, then we have the Salt Lake City lab section. I'm really excited to talk about this. The David section is one of my favorite in the entire game, and then the ending is one of my favorites of all time. We begin the section with the time skip. We then find out that the Fireflies have actually moved locations, and they're not staying in this school university that they were in before, and they are now in this big lab. After realizing that the Fireflies have now moved locations, Ellie and Joel then get attacked by some soldiers. In this fight, while they're dealing with these soldiers, Joel actually gets impaled, and now Ellie is all on her own. We then get a time skip into winter, and in this section, we find out that Ellie cannot find any medical supplies. And she actually hunts a deer, and then that's when she meets David. David is honestly one of my favorite characters in the entire Last of Us story. His bone-chilling voice and just his aesthetic is creepy, and just off first glance, you definitely get a weird feeling off of him. And I think when it is revealed that he knows who Ellie and Joel are, and that he's been planning this with Ellie, I think it is absolutely an amazing reveal, and it just makes it so much more creepier to know that David is a cannibal. I think David is absolutely amazing, whether that be in the TV show or whether that be in the game. I think both adaptations of this character are absolutely amazing, and both of them do justice for what they have. The fact that when you first see David, the game knows that you automatically will not trust him. So then they make you fight a bunch of zombies with him, and then you start to build a connection. And then once that happens, it's revealed that David knows who Joel and Ellie are, and that Joel and Ellie have been killing his men that go to his camp. And it's just an amazing reveal. After killing a deer, Ellie then meets David, and then he says that he could trade Ellie. David asks the guy to get some antibiotics for Ellie, and he reluctantly leaves. After this, we have to fight an entire swarm of zombies with David, building a relationship with David. After this, David tells us how in the winter, some of his men were attacked by this guy, and beside him, he had a little girl. It's really an amazing scene, but back to David. Realizing that David is talking about her and Joel, Ellie eventually gets out of there, but David later captures her. In this, Joel also wakes up. We get this awesome scene with him interrogating someone to find out where Ellie is. Ellie eventually ends up winning her fight with David and kills him. Joel eventually comes in at the last second, stopping Ellie from brutally attacking David, and also calls Ellie baby girl, something he hasn't said since Sarah's death at the beginning of the game. And this truly shows that Joel now fully sees Ellie as a daughter figure. After this, we then get a time skip where Joel and Ellie have officially arrived at the lab where they are going to do the test on Ellie. And this is the last section of the game. And also, like I said before at the beginning of this David section, is one of my favorites, especially towards the end with the entire hospital scene and then the true ending. This is one of my favorite sections of the entire game. And then also, one thing that I really liked is David truly changed Ellie's life. In this entire section, besides the giraffe scene, Ellie doesn't crack any jokes from here on out, and honestly, remains silent for basically this entire section. Eventually, Joel and Ellie are both knocked out, and then we see Marlene, who tells Joel that Ellie is being prepped for surgery, and that this surgery to make the cure for mankind is now underway. But Joel now officially seeing Ellie as a father figure, and also not being able to say his last goodbyes, tells Marlene to go find someone else. But Marlene tries to tell Joel that there is no one else. And after this, Joel becomes very enraged. And with this, goes on an entire rampage, going through this entire hospital, killing everyone in sight. And like I have been saying, this is my favorite section throughout this entire game. At the beginning of the story, we saw Sarah's death and we saw Joel grieve. And then when he saw Ellie, we saw him slowly break down these barriers that he built up. So to now go to the end of the game and to not even get a final goodbye, but instantly knowing that this surgery can kill Ellie and him not even get to say goodbye or any of that, it's sad. And then Joel goes on this entire rampage and you feel like Joel, you feel like you have to protect Ellie and you have to save Ellie from this because you love her like a daughter. This section is absolutely amazing. And another thing that I really like is this is a controversial one. But it's not a controversial one as in it's bad. It's a good one. It's discussions on if Joel was right to kill all these people in the hospital and stop the cure for mankind, or if Joel was wrong and he should have just let this happen because it will be the cure for mankind and stop this entire outbreak. I love this ending session. After killing everyone in the hospital, we then have this doctor who tells us to think about what we're doing and to think about all the lives that we'll save with Ellie. But Joel doesn't care and you kill him. After exiting the hospital, Joel then sees Marlene and Marlene gives him one last chance. He's already killed the doctors. He'd already killed half of the Fireflies in this hospital. Marlene is the last hope to save Joel and return Ellie. But Joel kills Marlene. After this, Joel leaves the hospital with Ellie, and then we get another time skip, this time with Joel and Ellie heading to Jackson. Ellie is still silent. Also, once Joel exited the hospital with Ellie, he told Ellie a lie. He told Ellie that there were multiple people immune and that the people at the hospital couldn't run the tests. Joel didn't tell Ellie how he murdered everybody to save her. He then told a lie. After we are so close to the finish line, so close to Jackson, Ellie asked Joel the question to swear to her that everything that he said about the Fireflies was true, that there was other people immune and that they couldn't run tests on Ellie. And this is Joel's last chance to tell Ellie the truth. But Joel then says, I swear. And Ellie says, okay. And then the credits roll. And that's The Last of Us Part 1. I absolutely positively love this game. This game is in my top 5 favorite games of all time. I love the storytelling. I love the characters. I love the world building. I love the character development that Joel and Ellie and all these characters go through in this story. I absolutely love it. And I absolutely love the TV show adaptation. But let me know what you guys thought of the TV show. Even going back through this, I realized that a lot of people have turned their back on this show. And a lot of people have begun to say that this show is overrated and it's a lot of filler and it's not good. So I really want to know what you guys thought of the TV show. Please let me know in the comments down below. And also let me know what you guys thought of The Last of Us. I really hope you guys enjoyed this critique and retrospect of The Last of Us TV show and game. Peace out.